And welcome into the Wednesday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Joe Rexrode, good morning. How are you? What's going on?
Doing good. The Detroit, it's Detroit, but Detroit, as some people like to say, Pistons are still alive. So
South Detroit.
Yeah. South Detroit, great place. Great, iconic place, really.
It is.
They're still alive. And Chandler Bing is a Commodore,
I saw that.
by the way. So glad you brought that up in the pre-show
before
meeting.
the show. I was like, wait a minute. Vanderbilt basketball's got a commitment from a dude named Chandler Bing, and it's real? It is. Chandler Bing, the newest commitment to Vanderbilt basketball.
So
It's incredible.
Okay, so he's obviously probably about 17, 18 years old right now, right?
Yeah.
So that means his parents named him Chandler. Her parents were named, last name was Bing. I assume that's a real last name.
Yeah.
Okay. So his parents, so I think Friends probably ended in about 2002.
That sounds about right.
So, a few years after that, about 5 years after that show ends, clearly this is not like, this is intentional.
They're watching reruns all the time on TBS, and they're like, you know what? We're going to name our son after Chandler Bing.
And of course, like someone of that generation is like, I'm sure he knows, right? Like there's no way people are gonna be like, hey, did you know that there's a guy on Friends named Chandler Bing?
Yeah,
I'm sure he knows. Because like Friends reruns around and stuff. But like, is that where's he from? He's from Atlanta. Okay.
How many times do you think he's going to be asked about it when he gets here?
Yeah.
Hey, have you ever seen Friends?
Well, and how many, like when he's in the post, pivot, if you know the show at all. If my last name was Bing and I had a son, he would be named Bada. He would not be named Chandler. If I was going to do something mean to my son and have people,
look, I hope he's great.
I do too.
I hope we have to talk about Chandler Bing on this program all the time.
I hope he's a weekly guest.
We welcome in Chandler Bing to the show. Chandler, how we doing?
When Katie hears that there's a Vanderbilt player named Chandler Bing, like she's such a huge Friends fan, she's gonna well, you have to get Vanderbilt season tickets.
In all seriousness, he's gonna be a pretty popular jersey, right? Like if you're out there buying jerseys, if you're a Vanderbilt fan, Chandler Bing's got to be near the top of the list.
That's a good point.
Moving forward,
there is some serious NIL potential.
Yeah,
here.
this could really be something for him.
I like this.
That is quite something. Congratulations to Vanderbilt basketball and Chandler Bing there. Ian Safar, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing great. Thanks. Happy to be here.
Friends fan?
Not really, to be honest with you.
Seinfeld?
Yeah, I like Seinfeld.
Okay.
Friends to me is one of the more overrated shows.
Yeah.
There's some funny parts, but most of them are just
first season I thought was pretty funny, and yeah, I'm with you. I think it's pretty overrated.
It's on all
I
time.
say this at 6 a.m. Katie doesn't listen anyway. Whatever. I sit here and rip her
Except
the whole
the
show
rant.
if I want to.
Yeah,
except the rant sometimes when she
good song. The song
Great
was
song.
a banger.
Yeah.
From when it came out.
Yeah.
There's better theme songs. I thought it was a pretty good song, all things considered. It holds up.
It's a pretty good theme song. It's not Greatest American Hero good, but it's good.
Your thoughts on Chandler Bing on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Phone lines are open.
615-737-1025, our phone number. A lot to get to on the program today. Some more coaching news on the NHL front that went down yesterday that we'll get into as to how that could potentially affect the Predators later in the program. We're going to get into a story in college football and college sports that is becoming more and more weird by the day. We'll get into that. And Paul Kuharski will be with us in the second half of the show. We'll get into the Titans draft, all things Tennessee Titans with PK coming up later in the program as well. Joe, speaking of the draft, we spent the end of yesterday's show kind of getting into the conversation, and we got down the road of next year's draft class, and we approached it from the standpoint of, some people are still upset. We had people calling in yesterday mad about the Titans not taking the Giants draft offer, right? And getting more picks and maybe addressing quarterback next year. One of my points was Well, if the quarterback class is really good next year, and if you're the Titans and it goes how we think it could go, which is you finishing pretty high and maybe with another top 5, top 10 pick in the draft, could you leverage that next season into getting more picks to build this roster around Cam Ward and what that looks like? Well, Dane Brugler, who has been very hard at work over the last few weeks, is hard at work again and has already put out his early mock draft for 2026. And if it goes this way, Joe, there are going to be a lot of quarterbacks that are available at the top part of that draft that the Titans could potentially take advantage of.
Yeah, well, there's some really interesting names. We talked yesterday of the obvious name. I guess everybody's going to have him, but Dane even writes scouts believe there's a good chance, as we've talked about so many times, that Manning returns to school in 2026. But he's got him one again. Not saying it couldn't happen. I'm saying let's just see. Let's see if it actually comes together for him. He's a very good prospect. I think, we've had some arguments on the show. Obviously, we see the Shedeur Sanders thing, like the famous kid, and where that can go. I always rejected the whole like Marvin Harrison Jr. Is overinflated. Like he was a great player in college, and I think he'll at least be a very good receiver in the NFL. Arch Manning, this does feel a little bit name related to me. And I understand he was a big prospect and all that, but again, tell me why he hasn't been able to really see the field yet. So we'll see. But Lenora Sellers, as we've talked about, Drew Aller, we've talked about. Now the interesting ones are then you get into and Garrett Nussmeier, we've talked about him too. So I think those are the 4 that everybody talks about, right? The one that Dane has that I find we talked about one, Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah.
From Indiana, who is a transfer from Cal. Kurt Signetti got Curtis Rourke going last year. By the way, this Niners drafted him. He's probably just going to end up being like the next Brock Purdy, 7th round pick, who's like awesome. I thought last year, I think Curtis Rourke can play in the NFL. But anyway, so we'll see with him. Now, I thought that he had Klubnik, but am I wrong about that? He doesn't have Klubnik in this. That's a different one.
I'm scrolling.
I'm getting my mock drafts mixed up, but some people have. I think CBS, if I'm not mistaken, had Klubnik top 5. So there's another guy who, think about a year ago, season opener, Georgia, and what happened in that game. The idea that Cade Klubnik would be considered, but the rest of the year, you saw progress. He's getting better. I'm still
Dabo's coaching him up.
Dabo, coaching him up. But I still have my questions about him as a first round pick. But those are the quarterbacks. So is it a really good quarterback class? It would be one, if you did take the deal, you'd be looking for a quarterback next year. You might have better options. Although I think Aller needs to take a step. I think Sellers needs to take a step. Manning needs to take 2 steps. And Nussmeier too. Like all of them, you could see it, but also I could see it being like Carson Beck.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And that's exactly what I was going to bring up. This is a year out of what a potential draft could look like. We know that it's going to look much different by the time the draft class rolls around. Now, not totally different. Like if you did this same exercise the year before Caleb Williams and Drake May came out, you would have gotten Caleb Williams probably at number 1 and Drake May number 2. Now, that didn't play out. It was Caleb Williams number 1, Jaden Daniels number 2, and Drake May number 3. But it was roughly right around there. So, there are times where you can pretty much forecast what it's going to be the next year as it relates to the quarterback. And frankly, sometimes I think we see teams plan for that when they get bad at some point. So there is that. I think it's harder to do number 1 with Manning because you don't know what he's going to be, number 1, at the college level as a full-time starter. And number 2, I still think that there's probably a better chance than not that regardless of what he is, he's coming back because that's what his family does. They all stay at school. So we'll see what happens on that front. Sellers, we talked about yesterday, is really interesting. I think he's got a chance to be really good. Drew Aller could have come out this year from Penn State and did not and chose to go back. So
which was the right move.
And I think he's probably going to end up being really good. Same thing with Nussmeier. Nussmeier could have come out this year as well and did not. So we'll see what that ends up looking like. Bottom line is, what does it mean for the Titans? First off, where do the Titans finish this year? Brugler's got them at 4th, picking 4th overall. So some marginal improvement there from the Titans.
He does not think the Titans will be complete buns.
He doesn't think they're going to be the worst team.
They've upgraded to cheeks.
So how good can the Titans be? Where do they end up finishing? And when it comes down to it, if you're still going with this patient approach and you get to the end of whatever that would be for the Titans next season, and Amy Adams Strong hasn't fired everybody, which is still, I believe that when I see it. What do you do there? Do you take it cuts down the old conundrum there. If you're in the top 5, obviously if you got a top 5 pick, Joe, there should be some pretty darn good players available to you. What's better, taking one of those players or trying to move back later in the draft and stockpile those picks that Brinker has talked about that they've not really done to this point?
Yeah. And then what I believe. So first of all, real quick, there's a few names in here that I expected to see. Like Caleb Downs from Ohio State.
Yep.
That's a guy I expected to see. Interesting, Jermod McCoy as the 11th pick in this draft. Vols corner, interesting. Anthony Hill Jr., linebacker from Texas. Carnell Tate, wide receiver from Ohio State. Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. But some other names to get used to. Keldrick Falk from Auburn. TJ Parker, edge from Clemson, is a name. Some of these names are going to be prominent, but some of them may not be, what he thinks right now. And that happens every year. I'm going to go back next segment, look at the 2025 way too early mock. But the Titans, I think that the catchphrase next year may be go to the doctor for Proctor.
We're going to get into that coming up next. I saw Rexrode wrote something down in our show plan last night where I was just like, good Lord, what is he doing? Where are we going with this
guy?
And then I got
measuring cheek size.
And we're going to get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Ian Safar is on his game today. I mean, Ian Safar is always on his game.
Yes.
But well done.
Today, feeling some Vandy hoops today.
Chandler Bing, baby.
God, please be good.
I hope he leans into it. I hope
Me
he
too.
Your walkout song. You don't really have those in basketball, but we can create one.
But yeah, I mean, you could jam that at Memorial Gym.
Yeah.
Like if he gets a 3-point play or something, gets fouled.
Probably hates it.
I know. I hope he likes it, man.
He probably is like, oh God, are you guys gonna bring this up?
But the thing is, like, first of all, he obviously has a middle name, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most people do. So if it's like Chandler Jonathan Bing, just go Johnny Bing.
Yeah.
Or whatever your middle name. Like it, or there's really no shortening of Chandler though, is there? Chan Bing. Yeah, it doesn't work. So that's a tough one. But like if you get to this point where you're an adult, you're a recruit, you're a public figure now. You're obviously a very good basketball player. You go to Pickton Vanderbilt. I feel like you would have changed it. But maybe he just doesn't understand. He hasn't really caught the full annoyance of this thing.
He's about
now.
to.
Yeah,
he comes around us.
He's going to be like Ron Artest. Meta World 1. Can I change my name to that? Meta World 2, please.
Oh, man. I can't wait till Chandler Bing starts playing basketball for Vanderbilt.
We are already big fans.
I will reverse my no college basketball until March discussion policy.
Dang right.
On this program.
Yeah, Jared from Spring Hill. I already made the bada bing joke, Jared from Spring Hill. You're late, man. You're late to the show.
So Cody on the text line saying, if you don't want your quarterback to see a doctor, draft Caden Proctor.
That's better than mine.
2026.
That's better than mine.
Is that your prediction of where things are going to end up here with the Titans?
Keep QB from Doctor with Proctor. Yeah, actually it is. I think that the Tennessee Titans, after a season of seeing why Dan Moore Jr. has not been an effective left tackle, will be high in the draft, and they'll draft a left tackle.
He's still got a long time left on his contract after that, don't they?
Yeah, but
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, good Lord,
it's just my prediction.
There's one thing that I've noticed about Rexrode since this Dan Moore signing. He does not have very high expectations for Dan Moore at left tackle next year.
I do have some friends who are Steelers fans, so I may be influenced by them. But you know how it is. Sometimes fans get a little bit exaggerated on the offensive lineman they hate, right? Now, granted, Titans fans cannot exaggerate what has been happening at left tackle here. So I think it will be better, but I think that if Proctor is, and for people who don't know, Proctor, huge recruit. I mean, he is only his third year of college. He actually was from Iowa, went to Bama. He transferred back to Iowa real quick, then came back last year. If he becomes this year what people think he could be, and by the way, he had some rough patches last year. Then I think he's a possible number 1 pick candidate. Now, Brugler has him 8th. But, yeah, I also like the Proctor. And, of course, then you get into, like, we're really big on names, but, like, the type of doctor when you think of Proctor, which is probably like watching the Titans in the last few years. But, no, I think that he's a real possibility, someone to watch this year. Other offensive tackles Brugler has. In fact, he's not the top offensive tackle he has. He has Spencer Fano from Utah, number 3 to the Giants. He's also got on here Austin Barber from Florida in the top 10. Let's see who else in the offensive. And again, the Titans may have more pressing needs. Maybe more works out great. Certainly a guy like Caleb Downs could be good enough to go that high in the draft. Cage Casey, great name from Boise State's another OT he has in the first round. Francis Mauigoa from the U. And Jude Bowery from Boston College. A lot of offensive tackles. Looks like an offensive tackle-rich draft at this point. So that would be my guess. The receiver.
We're light on receiver.
It might be another light year at receiver. It's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, and we'll see how it goes. Like, again, things change very dramatically a year out when it comes to the draft here. But, like, that was the one thing I was looking at. Because in a perfect world, right, like, the offensive line plays pretty well this year for the Titans. and you get into next year and you say, you know what? We feel good about Dan Moore at left tackle for one more year. And we feel good about J.C. Latham moving to the right. And maybe you don't have to address offensive tackle high in next year's draft. And you can finally go get that game-breaking receiver that I've been screaming for them to get for the last 3 years. And I'm looking at Brugler's early mock for 2026. He's got Carnell Tate going 13th. And then he's got one more receiver in the first round, which is Evan Stewart from Oregon at 31. Those are the two.
And again, if they were eligible, Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams, might go 1-2.
Yeah.
They might go 1-2. So we do know at least that the 2027 draft is going to be amazing at receiver.
They have a lot of good receivers.
But it's like, please, NFL, can you just let them come into the league yet? I mean, my gosh. It's unfair that those guys are going to be in college football this year.
Do you know Ryan Williams was 17 years old last year when he played?
Really?
Football?
I never heard that. Yeah. Why didn't anyone ever mention that on a broadcast?
I don't know.
So weird.
What are they going to do when he's 18 this year? It's like, wow, this guy's 18 years old. How about that?
And last year he was 17.
Last year he was 17. Crazy.
Also, edge is an obvious, just like this year, going in the draft. So, I mean, they're light on the edge. Brugler actually has T.J. Parker from Clemson going number 4 to the Titans. Who else on the edge front? You've got Matayo Uiagalelei. I don't know if there's any relation, from Oregon, 10 to Vrabes. So he doesn't think Vrabes going to be very good this year. You got Reuben Bain Jr. from Miami. Tyreek Sapp from Florida. So you've got some edges out there. Let's quickly go back to last year. A year ago, his way too early mock. Some interesting things. Michael Williams 1, Carson Beck 2 to the Titans. You remember this?
Oh, yeah.
We were like, dude, they've got Will Levis. What are we talking about here? He has Mason Graham 3. That's pretty good. He has Will Campbell 4. Pretty good. Will Johnson 5. He fell, but Calvin Banks. Abdul Carter 7. Travis Hunter 9. But still, Pierce 10. Tet McMillan 11. Malachi Starks 12. It's a couple shockers. Quinn Ewers. Number 14, overall to Texas. To the Steelers from Texas. Yeah. Luther Burden, 17. He's got Colson Loveland as going, and he does not have Tyler Warren, which is interesting. Nick Skirton and Shamar Turner. Shador, 22 to the Jets was his pick. He's got Nolan in there, JTT. So it's actually, there's some guys that didn't make it, but it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
If this is the hit rate for this one that we're looking at here, because I usually expect these to be way off, but Anto Saka, another edge from Northwestern, by the way, that the Titans could be interested in.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what this ends up playing out like for them. Look, best case scenario for the Titans this year, realistically, based on their roster. I guess we could get crazy here and say, well, the best case scenario is Cam Ward's unbelievable, and they do what Jay Daniels did last year. Again,
no, that's true.
How realistic is that? I don't think very, based on where their roster is right now. So, in all likelihood, you are looking at another high draft pick last year. Maybe not number 1 overall, but another high draft pick next year. And the general question is, if, let's say, Cam Ward hits and is good, how long should it take the Titans, based on where their roster is right now, to get back to being in a spot where they can compete for the division and compete for playoff spots and compete to do damage in the AFC once you get there? That's really the fundamental question. If Cam Ward is close to what they hope he is, how long, what's the timeline we're looking at here for the Titans getting back to being a team that you're happy to watch on Sunday afternoons?
Yeah, well, if he can be as good as in his first 2 years as a pretty good quarterback they've had in the past named Marcus Mariota,
yes,
then they could be right back in the mix to the playoffs in year 2. So there you go. That's the bar.
There's the formula to follow. Just follow Marcus. 615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your thoughts to get to on our text line, which we will do coming up next. Plus, some news yesterday on the NHL front that is going to make things interesting around here. I got a list to throw your way, the Robby Stanley list that I've just concocted yesterday. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan tonight as the Nashville Sounds take on Gwinnett. Pregame beginning at 5:50. First pitch at 6:05. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon. Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/getitall. Let's get to your text line driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com. Mark in Ashland City texting in and says, in a perfect world, Alec Io Manor, which we have consulted a pronunciation guide, I believe is what that is.
That's a scoop.
Io Manor shows his potential, becomes a game-changing receiver. Dan Moore suits up at left tackle. He shores that up, and they can draft a dominant edge rusher high in the first round next year.
Yep, those would be good things. Even if Io Manor, this is the Stanford pronunciation guide?
This is the okay. So I've seen it is now. I've got the Stanford pronunciation guide and Notre Dame together. So it's doubly sourced. Io Manor.
Io Manor.
Yeah.
Not Io Manor.
Correct.
Okay. Io Manor. All right. We'll see how Kuharski says it later. I like the pick a lot. I think you'd be good. I think you still. I mean, I could look if they hit on both fourth rounders. That'd be freaking good.
It would be awesome.
Yeah. But I still have a feeling they're going to be in the market for a receiver in a year from now or an off season from now.
I would agree. And frankly, like even if he hits, you've still got, Lockett. How long is Lockett going to be here?
Yeah. I mean,
probably a year.
And is Ridley going to be really good through? Is he going to be here through his contract to be really good through?
Right. Like they're going to need, I think, probably multiple more receivers, even if the two they just took hit. Yeah, you're probably going to need a couple more after that, just based on the league, where the league is right now and where they're at in that room. Like they're just going to need more guys. They're more dynamic players at that position. So I'm with you. Like it would be great if the 2 fourth rounders you took this year, I mean, you walk away from this season not only, most importantly feeling good about Cam Ward, but feeling good about those two as well. That would be great. I still think regardless of how well they play, you're going to need to add to that room next offseason.
Yeah. Now they signed Restrepo. Very
they did.
Polarizing choice there. I've seen the range of, obviously Stilly screaming how awful it is, all the way to Gentry Esses and the Tennessean saying this is an example of how this is a new smart front office. So that's quite a range.
That is a range
of interpretations of Xavier Restrepo as a Titan. But I personally think it's worth a shot.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, number one, we'll see if he makes the team. That's going to be step one, right? Can he make the team? And if he does, is there any sort of production that follows that? But yeah, like when he doesn't get drafted and he's there for you and he was as productive as he was in college, I think it's certainly worth the risk there. I mean, there's very little risk for the Titans.
Interesting point Trevor Maddich made, which was, you hope that like Cam Ward doesn't overdo like trying to get him the ball to help him make the team. I hadn't thought about that. That's an interesting thought, but man, I feel like as a rookie QB trying to get ready to start,
you got enough of your own things to figure out. Really
right?
Worried about.
If you're worried about that,
Xavier Restrepo,
that's being a little too selfless.
So we'll get into all that with Kuharski a little bit later in the program. Interested to get his thoughts on what the Titans have done in the NFL draft and where things could be heading here with Cam Ward leading the fold. So we'll get into that with Kuharski a little bit later. Joe, some news on the NHL front yesterday. Rick Tocchet will not be back as head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. Vancouver tried. He says that they basically the reporting is there was an offer that was made to Rick Tocchet that would have made him a very highly paid coach. And the bottom line was he just didn't really want to be there. He wants to go back closer to his family, which is, quote, in the eastern part of the United States. So you can take that for whatever it means. But Rick Tocchet is not going to be back in Vancouver. So Mike Sullivan is out in Pittsburgh. Tocchet is out in Vancouver, which, by the way, means you can add another opening. So there are now 8 openings in the NHL. The Predators are not one yet. They're not an opening. And there's still no word from Barry Trotz as to what exactly is going on with Andrew Brunette. So in the meantime, if they are considering moving on from Andrew Brunette, you're thinking about what could some potential replacements be. I have a list. I have top three Robbie Stanley coaches hot board. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
I got some bad news for Predators fans after I get done with this hot board too. Number 1, Mike Sullivan. Sullivan is the number 1 guy on my board. I think that you're talking about a 2-time Stanley Cup winner and a guy that's going to have a lot of interest out there. And frankly, by the reporting, already has a lot of interest out there. So if you are considering a change, if you're the Predators, maybe you're behind the 8 ball a little bit when it comes to Mike Sullivan on that front. But he would be my number one dream. If you're moving on from Brunette, he would be my number one guy on the board. Tocchet is number 2. I think that Tocchet's really good. It is amazing to think about a year ago, like basically right now, those two were locked up in a series of Brunette and Tocchet, and they were both Jack Adams Award finalists. And then in a year since then, neither one of them made the playoffs. And Andrew Brunette's job status is in question, and Rick Tocchet has now voluntarily left the Vancouver Canucks. So things change very quickly in this league.
They do. And by the way, on Tocchet, that was his only series win as a head coach.
Yes.
So I think he's good too. His track record is not thrilling.
No. Now, he did beat the Predators in a series that wasn't really a playoff series, but kind of was when he was head coach of Arizona a few years ago in the bubble. But
that's true. That's a good point. But yeah, I guess we count that.
It wasn't really I guess it was a series, but not really. My number 3 guy on the list, and this is probably a polarizing one from some Predators fans and some NHL fans out there, but I think it's worth a shot. Gerard Gallant. Gerard Gallant is a guy that, after doing some research, I felt like Jonathan Marchessault got along with pretty well. Really liked Gerard Gallant. And look, I think he's a good coach. Now, I also think Gallant is a guy that clearly wears out his welcome pretty quickly. Like he's good, and he gives you results. He's kind of similar to Laviolette.
I was going to say
in that way.
That's a hockey coach thing.
Yeah,
too,
like
right?
he comes in, he does a good job, and I think pretty quickly kind of wears on people. Now, how much is that what you want if you're Barry Trotz? I don't know. That's what his track record kind of is. But I do think he's a good coach. And all 3 of those guys are veteran coaches that I think have a displayed track record of being good coaches in this league, which frankly is what I think this roster needs right now. Now, to the bad news. Mike Sullivan. I don't think the Predators are landing him. There's a lot of noise on the Rangers and him. He's from Boston, and his family lives in Boston. So there's an obvious connection there. And it doesn't feel like the Predators are going to be in the mix for him. And again, the Predators don't have an opening, and all these other teams do. And I don't know how long he's going to be willing to wait, right? Like I would imagine that teams that already have those vacancies are making their pitch to Sullivan right now. Tocchet, I think if I had to guess right now, it's probably going to end up in Philadelphia. That seems to be what the thought is, and there's even some coaches around the league that have talked to the Friedmans of the world and the Saravallis and the Hockey Insiders that they would be very surprised if he does not end up in Philadelphia. So if Sullivan is with the Rangers and Tocchet ends up in Philadelphia, there's still Anaheim that's open. There's Pittsburgh that's open. Vancouver's now open. There are a lot of jobs open out there. So if you're the Predators and you do decide to get involved in this and you move on from Andrew Brunette, like how far deep down the list does your coaching pool go in terms of what you're looking for, and how much does that factor into your decision if you're Barry Trotz? That's
a great question. It just doesn't feel like either of those top 2 on your list are realistic. And if not, I think it does. Like Gallant is, personally, I'd be thrilled because I could relive, Gerard Gallant playing with Steve Yzerman and Bob Probert.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a top line with 2 guys who fought so much. It's like the top line and 2 of your 2 wingers absolutely get in fights like every other day. It was pretty amazing. He was a hell of a player. Boy, he looks a lot older than he did then. But that would be thrilling for me. I think he'd be good, and I think that's an interesting piece of research by you. He got along with Marchessault. Got to get along with Marchessault. Apparently, that's not easy to do.
How important is that if you're Barry Trotz? I mean, Gallant is also kind of the guy that gave Marchessault a shot in Florida, and they ended up with him again in Vegas. So there's a track record there of those 2 being together and working well together. Now, again, I don't think you can base your entire coaching decision on what Jonathan Marchessault likes, right?
Probably not.
I don't think that's probably a good way to operate.
If so, he better get 50 goals next year.
Exactly. Like there's, if it's Connor McDavid you're basing your coaching search on, sure, that's fine. I think Marchessault is probably not the same level of what I'd be bouncing stuff off of there.
Who
But
does
again,
Stamkos like?
well,
Do they both like anyone?
that's a good question. Good question. I mean, there are a lot of intriguing names out there. There's some assistant coaches that I think could be intriguing. But I've talked about this. Like, I kind of feel like where they are right now, I think they need an established NHL coach who's done it before. I'll tell you another one that's interesting that hasn't been a head coach in a few years that would be interesting, and that's Claude Julien, who used to be he's a longtime coach of the Bruins. I think he's an assistant now with St. Louis with Jim Montgomery, and he's 65. So, you know, he's not a spring chicken anymore.
Gallant's 60 something.
61, I think. So, I mean, sometimes you run into, Laviolette, I think, is in his 60s. So you've got all that going on. But, like, he's a guy that has demonstrated success as a head coach in the league. I mean, his last stop, Julien, was in Montreal, and it didn't go overly well there. But a lot of success as a head coach in Boston. You know, it's just another guy that's probably not on a ton of people's radar right now in terms of discussion that is a veteran head coach with demonstrated success around the league. So there are options out there beyond the Sullivans and the Tocchet's and the Gallants of the world. I mean, you know, I don't think he's an option here, but Laviolette, is he going to end up anywhere else? Like, because if he ends up somewhere else, that's one more job off the list that, you know, you could go get somebody else with.
Yeah. Yeah, you want him to get a job. It's in. So then you have these possibilities, and I definitely, we've talked about, you know, if you're going to do this, you should have an idea. I think that happens a lot more than people realize sometimes. But also, like, if you're so far down the road of, you know, of whatever convinced you that you should move on at all, do you do it no matter what?
Right. Well, and then there comes to the timing of all this, which is also interesting, which I think I have questions about as it relates to Barry Trotz, which we'll get into coming up next. How does his approach to all this, is it helping the Predators on a coaching search? Does it hurt the Predators with a coaching search? We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. The 615 Open Charity Golf Tournament benefiting Folds of Honor, presented by Gary Force Acura at Hermitage Golf Course, is on Thursday, May 29th. That's coming up less than a month. Less than a month. We're getting there. Sign up to play or sponsor at 615open.com. Always a fun event. Looking forward to seeing you out there this year. Taking your thoughts on the Predators, the NHL head coaching vacancies that we know of at the moment that are out there, by the way, of which the Predators are not one. There's still been nothing on the future of Andrew Burnett. We have not yet heard from Predators general manager Barry Trotz, who was originally supposed to speak last week and has not. And no word so far this week on when or if he may be speaking coming up. So
Barry,
don't know what's going on.
Play.
Don't know what's going on there. So let's start on that front. This is now, somebody brought up the John Hines situation with us yesterday, where they had an end-of-season press conference with John Hines sitting there, and a lot of the press conference was about his job and whether or not he was going to be there. And then like a several-week process went by, and then they ended up with Andrew Burnett. Like I think, when was Andrew Burnett hired? I think it was like May the 30th. Like it was pretty late in the process there. So we've seen Trotz do this before, where he has taken his time in determining, number one, is he going to fire the coach? And then number two, once he makes that decision of getting his coach in and making a hire. I don't know what he's doing with Andrew Burnett. They may decide here and today to have a release that Andrew Burnett is back and he's the head coach next year. We'll see what ends up happening.
Would that be a release?
On that front? Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, he's got to talk at some point.
So. Yeah, it was May 30th.
It was May 30th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a long time. Like, it's a pretty long time into the process. So my question to you, Joe, is like all these other teams have made their decision. They've fired their coaches, and there's 8 vacancies that are now open. Some of those coaches were fired before the season ended, and some have been fired in the aftermath of it. Do you think that Barry Trotz seemingly taking his time here with this decision will hurt the Predators if, in fact, they do decide at the end of this to move on from Andrew Burnett, just in terms of the timing of it?
Well, it's got to go. Yeah, you got to go. You got to figure it out right now. Just if you're gonna move, like, do it today. What is today? Wednesday? It's Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday, April 30th.
April 30th.
Tomorrow's May.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do it today. Do it before May, and get in there and figure it out. And if you're, I guess if you're, I would say there's also urgency the other way, because like let the guy know that he's what his deal is. At this point, I think it's like, let the dude know, is he coming back or not. I think it's about time here to figure this out. And again, if they're going to miss out on these top prizes, which seems already likely, then you get into the rest of the coaching pool, and do you get excited about anybody? And also, do coaches out there who other coaches that Trotz may be interested in, they interested in him? Are they interested in the Preds? Are they interested in taking on this older roster that obviously had a rough season? This goalie who had a rough season, and Trotz, working with Trotz. I'm sure that every single person in the coaching profession has high respect for Barry Trotz, and especially as a coach, as a person, but as a GM. Yeah, it's early and it hasn't been great overall here.
Well, we got Matt on the text line that says, you guys are kind of saying the quiet part out loud, that Nashville doesn't seem to be in contention with serious hockey markets, and that's sad after 25 years. I don't think it's that at all. Like, I think you're looking at where the team is. Like, I don't think it's like an organizational failure in terms of like, well, they either won't spend to go get a coach, or the market's not attractive. I don't think it's any of that. Matter of fact, I think their market is very attractive. And I think there's a lot of things here that coaches love. I mean, I can tell you, I talked to a lot of coaches around the league. They love Nashville. Like, I can tell you. And so I don't think it's that. I think it has more to do with where their roster is right now and where things are going. Like, at the moment, they've got an older roster that is coming off an incredibly bad year. Their prospect pool is good. It's not great. Now, maybe that changes, and maybe the ping pong ball falls their way here in about a week, and you find out they're getting the number 1 overall pick. We'll see what happens on that front, and maybe that changes how the job is viewed. I don't know, but if you're looking right now, like Anaheim right now, Anaheim's got a pretty good young core that you can go try to build with and win with. Boston, New York are original 6 jobs, and New York is 1 year removed from winning a President's Trophy. Like there's a lot of openings. And Pittsburgh's got Crosby. I know Crosby's older, but Pittsburgh's got Sidney Crosby, and they've got an organization that is committed to winning. So there's just a lot of jobs that are open right now. I don't think it's some organizational, misstep by the Predators here that they're not on the same level as some of these other markets. I just think it's where their roster is right now.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, I think that sometimes there is like the original 6 lure, and there's obviously these generational fan bases, things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I think it is a very attractive.
But I mean, like, where
the external factors of this job are very attractive.
Yeah, I mean, I bet if you polled players and coaches right now, where are the top 2 places that they want to play and or coach, if they're being honest, you know what the 2 answers would probably be? Florida and Tampa. That's probably what the answers would be. Neither one of those original 6. Both of them have great weather, which we have good weather. We don't necessarily have Florida and Tampa weather. But what I'm saying is, like, I don't think just because the Predators aren't an original 6 team, I don't think the coaches around the league look at that and go, I can't do that. And I think to a man, that would probably be what the result would be. Florida and Tampa.
For the record, some people hate Florida weather. Now, we don't, but I'm just saying. Especially like some Canadians think that's like
a lot of Canadians
going to the third circle of Hades.
I can tell you, for the Canadian coaches I talk to, a lot of coaches say, thank God it's not Canadian weather. Let's get down there.
And I can relate to that. Those bones get brittle in the cold, man.
Let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Tim to the program. Tim, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, guys. Do y'all think that Barry is, before he makes a decision on Burnett, is trying to go ahead and have a coach lined up and hired before? I think he did when he got Burnett. I think that's when he fired John Hines, he turned around and it made that announcement a day or 2 later. I think that deal was worked out before he got rid of Hines.
That's a good point. Thank you, Tim, for the call. I mean, yeah, I think it happens in the league for sure. Like we talked about yesterday, right? Using with
Hines,
with Hines, right? Like Laviolette was fired on like a Monday night, and Tuesday morning Hines was in the building coaching.
Hey guys,
right? It's like, oh, okay. Do we think that all just came together, or do we think that maybe there were some conversations that took place before that?
Hey, what are you doing
I'm sure
here, man.
Like it's not like Barry Trotz just can't speak with anyone before Burnett is fired. That happens all the time in the NHL.
Yeah, but then it gets into who.
Well, and
who's worth it?
Well, and I think the real question is, like, has Barry Trotz made his decision yet? And that's what he's doing, and is like talking to other coaches and seeing what he can land before he goes ahead and fires Burnett? Or is he still considering like what he's going to do?
You've had more than enough time to consider. And if you're doing the first thing, you say that's ridiculous. Well, let the guy go. I mean, it's about time here. Now that I think about it, it's like, really, dude, it's Wednesday. Let's go. Matt says, I was only talking about hockey decisions the team has made, not the destination.
Okay. Well, I mean, the hockey decisions aren't going great right now. There's no doubt about that. The roster is in a bad spot at the moment.
Especially if he goes another day and says, yeah, I'm just not sure, guys.
Let's head back to our
We'll have a presser at some point, one of these weeks.
Head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in Adam in Portland. Adam, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
I mean, I haven't heard you guys say it, but I also jumped in a little late. It seems like if it's a roster issue, then start piecing off the roster. But if it's a coaching issue where you're like, I believe in the roster, well, sack up and do what Belichick did and coach the team yourself. Like, if you feel like your roster is good enough, do both. Like, you're already at the games. I don't know, dude. Seems like a logical, easy answer, and probably you'll think it's stupid, but I'm sitting here like, dude, coach the team. You built the roster. You obviously know how to coach. You're a Stanley Cup winning coach.
So you want to do both jobs, GM and coach?
Sack up, man. Do it. Hell yeah. Do both.
Can you play a little third pairing defenseman too? Let's do player, coach, GM.
Do it. Why not, man? I believe in him.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. I don't think that is doable in today's NHL.
Yeah, that's not happening. But I will say that are you sure you don't want to just come back down to the bench? Throw it out there.
Trotz come down to the bench and go hire a new GM. That's what you'd have to do.
I mean, of all, it's better than Adam's idea. Okay.
615
got that going for me.
737-1025 our phone number. We got a couple more thoughts to get to on the Predators front. We'll do that coming next. Plus, we'll get into a story in college football that just continues to be weirder and weirder and kind of strange to even bring up, but we'll do it. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com will be with us later in the program. We'll get into the Titans draft, all things Tennessee Titans with him. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. A lot of reaction on the text line to Adam in Portland calling in saying, got one texter that says, well, if Adam's just throwing out crazy stuff, why don't we see if Derrick Henry can come back and play with Cam Ward before he retires?
Yeah, for the record, he's not a free agent. He signed a 2-year deal with the Ravens, and they're very happy to have him finish out his 2-year, $16 million deal.
They are.
Very happy.
You're very happy to have that. Yeah, I don't think Trotz is going to come down and coach. If he does, he's certainly not going to coach and be GM at the same time. Don't think that's going to happen.
I look, in the old days,
I know. There's a time where that could probably work.
You would have seen that back when they didn't even have assistant coaches and stuff,
It's a lot involved in
That's
these organizations.
But again, does Trotz at some point look at this whole thing and say, you know what? Being a GM sucks. I'm a good coach. I'm going back to being a coach.
Craig on the text line says, if Trotz is still deciding on Brunette and whether or not he's going to be the coach, someone needs to decide he's not the GM anymore because he's had more than enough time to decide. The season's been over since Thanksgiving. The evaluation process should be complete. Look, I will say that's kind of my thought on this as well. Not necessarily like as strong as Craig there. Like, I don't think it's like a fireable thing, but it is like we've had some time here to make this decision, right? Like it's, you guys have been out of the playoff race from basically the moment the season began this year, 0-5, and you've been chasing it, and you've like legitimately been out since January. Like it's been a long time that you've been knowing that this is the way it was going to end. And I understand the exit meetings, like maybe even beyond what we think. Maybe they got into those exit meetings and the gloves came off and Trotz was just totally blindsided with what his players said and thought in there. I have no idea. But it's been 2 weeks since the season's over. Like it's time to go ahead and make a decision here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I feel like we're to the point now where every day is like, what? Hands up in the air. Like the Preds should at least today announce when he's talking. If not, say, today, guys, 2:00, Trotz is talking. Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's and again, what I don't want, and I don't know if this played into it or not, what I don't want, and it would be inexcusable at this time, is to have a press conference and Barry Trotz gets up there and it's like, well, we're still evaluating.
Yeah, don't have a bad press conference. Yeah, don't have a fake one.
We're still waiting to see what's going to happen.
Nick Barnowski, just schedule a press conference and then he'll probably show up and tell us. Give it a shot. PR, lead the way.
Barry, you're talking tomorrow at 4:00.
What do you think about this? How's this work for you? Does this work for you, Barry? Barry, hey, I'd love to see you in the office today at 3. And come into the room where they have the press conference. We're just going to talk.
I don't know. Like, Trotz has always kind of marched to the beat of his own drum, and he does things his own way. And I think some of that's really good. This one, we need to make a decision here. It's time.
Yeah, the beat of your own drum can't be, again, making a coach twist in the wind for weeks. And also making your fan base, after this horrible season, wonder what is going on with the future of the it's time.
So, on the Bill Belichick front, so I don't know if you caught this, if how many people out there caught this clip of him sitting down. I think it was with CBS doing an interview.
Yes. It was a very friendly interview.
Yeah.
It was a very, and tell me about your dad, and I love that hole in your Navy sweatshirt.
Right. And
interview.
There was a lot of that. And then it got to the point where they started bringing up his girlfriend, who is 24-year-old Jordan Hudson, who we've spoken about here on the show. And it got very strange and very awkward at that time. I want to read you kind of like an opening couple of graphs here from a story from USA Today that says, quote, "This can't be what North Carolina believed it was getting. It just can't. How anyone in that painfully dysfunctional group of misfits making decision at North Carolina could not have seen this from a country mile is beyond comprehension. And now what? Now you've got a 24-year-old running your football program by proxy. You've mortgaged your future on Bill Belichick, a coach who may or may not have been the reason the Patriots won 6 Super Bowls, and a coach and his 24-year-old girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, who last weekend made it abundantly and awkwardly clear who wears the jersey in the relationship. More disconcerting to all things, to North Carolina, who clearly has Belichick's ear. It's a
Is this
very
Wolken?
weird situation.
This sounds like a Wolken column.
It is Matt Hayes from USA Today.
Okay.
So,
okay.
There you go. What are your thoughts on Bill Belichick, the awkward interview with CBS in which his girlfriend, like in the middle of it, is like, hey, we're not talking about that. We're not doing this. She's getting up and like interrupting the interviews that are going on and trying to determine the direction of the interviews. And she's copied on all the emails of North Carolina football activities. Right. She's running around at practice. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, we talked last week about Matt Baker's story about she's copying all the emails and like some of the stuff she was, and she's very, very involved, and some of the stuff she's worried about from a PR perspective is a little bit mind-boggling. I mean, 24 years old. Again, I said I was as smart as a squirrel's toe at 21. I was like maybe a full squirrel at 24. That doesn't mean everybody's like that. Some people are geniuses at 14, but I'm just saying a 24-year-old with that kind of power, a little bit disconcerting. And I mean, the question, like, well, how'd you guys meet, Bill? I mean, that's the question. How did you two meet? And she's like, no, we're not talking about that. That's now become the most popular meme on all social media. Is like the picture of her, and we're not talking about that. But apparently she also stormed out of the interview for a half hour. So there was the chirping right in there. Again, do you not think that 73-year-old Bill Belichick can answer for himself? What? But then you storm out, and that happens. And then you have this whole thing with, did you see like this thing she sent out yesterday about his letter? So yeah, he has a book, and I still don't totally understand this, but like he has a book, and then he was apparently upset with Ben Volin's Boston Globe review of the book, and so she put on social media his entire letter to like the publisher and all this stuff about promoting the book. But now I got like Albert Breer is tweeting about this and says this. Do we have approval on that? Is the smoking gun that tells me Belichick didn't actually write that email. There's zero chance he didn't know the Boston Globe wouldn't give them control over the title, and he would also probably know it's a headline, not a title. So now he's accusing her of writing emails claiming to be Belichick when it's actually her writing the email. I mean, this whole thing it's starting to get like this is not going to end well.
No.
Like it's kind of been a joke, and it's a little weird, and it's a little creepy. I mean, if you're someone who could comfortably be someone else's grandparent and you're dating them, I'm sorry. It's a little bit off-putting, but you know what? It's not illegal, and whatever. Live your life. Love who you love. This is not going to end well.
I'm with you. It is a very strange situation. We'll take your thoughts on that.
Snap face. We'll get that on there. Yeah, good.
Snap face. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. More thoughts on that coming up next. Paul Kuharski will be with us later in the program as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. This week's Nashville's best deal is Prince's Hot Chicken, the original and iconic hot chicken joint. For a limited time, grab half off a $25 gift card at theGameNashville.com/deals. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Bill Belichick. It's an interesting situation at North Carolina. We've talked about the interview with his girlfriend kind of stepping in the middle there, saying, hey, we're not talking about that. She's copied on every email. She's running around at practices in North Carolina. And the headline from USA Today, Bill Belichick, Jordan Hudson interview reveals North Carolina may be headed for a train wreck. Is what it says at USA Today. It is like, it's a very, like, they've not played a down of football yet. So who knows? Maybe they go out there in the fall and North Carolina is competing for an ACC championship, a spot in the college football playoff, and nobody cares at North Carolina about this at the end of the day because he's winning. But it does seem like there's just a lot of even I think beyond the interview stuff, which was weird, and that's what getting all the headlines right now, and the clips are going around social media. I think the eye-opening thing in this is what we discussed last week, and all the emails that she's tagged on, and like she's basically serving as his PR director here, which is really, really weird.
Right. So, aside from the jokes, and of course, as you mentioned during the break, which I'm not even going to like repeat it, but some of the stuff now that's going around, how'd you meet and all this stuff, right? I just like think about this in terms of if you're North Carolina, like, look, schools and like coaches, sometimes they deal with just coaches themselves who are tough to deal with, and certainly spouses who are tough to deal with. I've heard a thing or two. Miss Terry, everybody loves Miss Terry, Nick Saban's wife. I think she could be very tough and demanding and things like that. But again, there's nothing wrong with that. But that's also a difference between, like a spouse and like a kind of a short-term girlfriend who's 50 years. I mean, it's so much power for someone who, like, if you're the school, another thing that when schools hire coaches, what you see, I've heard this from coaches before. I knew a coach in college basketball who missed out on a couple jobs and believed that it was because he was single. And some schools are like, it's not, I don't bring like single people into the college camp, like that sort of thing. Like, we want people who have, spouses and families. Again, should that be the case? I'm not saying it should or shouldn't, but I'm just saying that's how some people look at it. If you're North Carolina looking at this situation, like, how could you not at this point be a little bit concerned about your hire of Bill Belichick?
Yeah, I think you should. And again, they've not played a down of football yet. So as we know, winning cures a lot of things at this. But here's one thing I wonder. Number one, he's not been a head coach in college football before. So there's that. It's a different world. Tom Brady's not walking through that door. So there's also that. He's in his 70s, and he just seems different than he's been.
Lenny
maybe
says,
some of that's good.
Yeah.
Like he does seem like, look, frankly, I thought when he was on TV, like when I first found out he was doing like the McAfee stuff and he was going to be on the Manning cast, I was like, oh God, like Belichick. And then I saw it and I loved it. Like, it was good. It was really good. He was engaging, and maybe she has something to do with that.
Could be.
I have no idea. I have no clue.
It's probably more just getting away from being a coach being questioned by media, but
probably so.
But it could be.
But it feels, I don't know. He feels different. It feels like he's less in control than he seemed like he was with the New England Patriots, which is not how I thought that would go when he went to college. Like, I thought it would be the opposite. I thought he'd seem like he was more in control at college. It's weird the way that it's played out here.
Yeah. Lenny says, is it just me or does he seem happy? I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, but like if you're him going through all this now, first of all, again, realizing, they can get my emails through open records requests. That's different than the NFL. But then also all of this stuff, this distraction, I guess, does distraction matter that much in late April? Not as much as it would in September, but how do we know that that's not going to happen?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, there's been this much already. Do we think that's going to stop when football season rolls around? Like, when there's more eyeballs watching what you do? Do we think it's going to, like, the distraction's going to be less at that point? I don't.
Yeah, it's hard to, I mean, like, something's got to change. And like, look, you mentioned North Carolina expectations. Like, Has their over under gone down in Vegas since the? I mean, I can see it.
Wow.
I assume she'll be at the games, right?
Oh, I'm
Well,
at
at the
the
games-
sideline.
And the camera's going to be looking for her.
Yeah.
Well,
I assume
at the
during these
game,
games.
sure, but like that's what somebody's asking here is like, is she gonna be on the sideline? You know, and it's like, even if you really are like you're running the PR, you still wouldn't normally be in the sideline. But I'm not sure. I'm not convinced she
Calling
won't
plays.
be. Get that? I mean, how many headsets do they have?
So
You
you've
know?
asked an interesting question here that I think is worth considering. More damage done to the potential football product. Jordan Hudson in North Carolina or Deion Sanders with Shedeur Sanders' career where they just torpedoed that. He went in the 5th round, and we'll see how he responds to it.
Yeah, again with Shedeur, all the talk this week, Deion's not getting enough credit for how he screwed this up. Jordan Hudson the thing is, and it may be like it probably should be more on Bill, you know, if it goes bad. But obviously, I see all the Yoko Ono stuff with her, right? This is turned now to, it was kind of like a whatever funny thing, you know, all that stuff. It's turned now to, oh, this could be a real problem. Like I feel like I need to find a North Carolina message board today. Although if I go to a North Carolina message board, are they talking about football?
I don't know.
Maybe this makes North Carolina fans care more about football. They can get really mad about their football coach before he even coaches a game.
I mean, look, if somebody points out, Kevin says, you know, he's got his son's there. He's got a new girlfriend there. Maybe he's just trying to set up his son with a job.
What did he? But he said set him up with a job and a wife. Like you're saying that he's going to transfer his girlfriend.
Yeah,
to
I
his
don't know
son?
about that. Then we get into real weird stuff.
Here you go, son. All right, here you
There
go.
goes son.
Jeff, on to Cincinnati.
Man.
This is
The whole thing's just very strange.
But another thing about this with Bill is, regardless of what happens here at North Carolina, I guess not regardless, because if it's great, then that's one thing. But it's probably if he has any designs on going back to the NFL,
well,
probably isn't helping. And maybe he doesn't. I mean, I think he has said this is going to be his last job. It probably should be.
yeah, he's 73. As has been well documented.
Yes.
He's 73. I don't think he's going back to the NFL, but I mean, I'm very fascinated to see how this plays out.
Yeah, but it was one of those things. I mean, some people have speculated it's probably inaccurate, but you know, if he goes there, gets them into a college football playoff, has a couple really good years, then
And his contract's easy to get out of after
could
one
an
year,
NFL team be like, okay, yeah, he still got it. Look what he did there. Bring him back in. You know, some people sitting here talking about, you know, like even in the piece you read there by Matt Hayes, one thing about all this is Belichick still deserves the credit for being one of the greatest coaches, by the way. Like, I'm not like, you can't sit here now. And I know a lot of stuff that's happened since the Belichick-Brady breakup has been, it was more Brady. That's fine. I think it's always more the great players than his coaches. But let's not completely erase from history that he's a great coach.
Yeah, he's a great coach. Great coach. Now, I've always believed that it's way more Brady than it was him. And clearly there was some friction on that front at some point along their journey in New England together. But yeah, like he's one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Friction, eh? Yeah, you know, I will say that, you know, Brady, obviously one of the greatest coaches or one of the greatest quarterbacks in AFC's history, without question.
God.
So obviously that's going to help you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
At least top 5 in the history of the AFC East.
Yeah. Now, he's better than Ken O'Brien for sure.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. More your thoughts on the Belichick front, plus another strange situation going on here in the world of football. It's very different than this one, but in some ways, equally as funny. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/getitall. We will have Paul Kuharski later in the program. We did have somebody ask us, say, it's Wednesday. Why isn't Paul in the studio? Like, he always shows up in the second half. Don't worry. He'll be here.
A lot of times he's here by now, but I guess it's not that important to him.
We're always appreciative of PK's time.
Is he struggling to get up the stairs with a huge bucket of Chad Brinker's water? See, I'm just going to keep taking these shots till you get here, PK.
Taking your thoughts, 615-737-1025. So we go from one strange story in the world of college football to a story in the NFL that's not necessarily strange, although some of the comments this dude makes are very interesting. And that is 35-year-old James Gladstone, who is the general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had some interesting things to say after they drafted Travis Hunter the other day. Here's what the Jags GM James Gladstone said the other day in the aftermath of their draft.
Yeah, as we sit here, Travis Hunter is a Jacksonville Jaguar, and really what comes to mind for me, right? Thinking about the sport of football and really the power of the game itself, right? Its capacity to ignite belief, right? Belief in ourselves, belief in others, right? Belief in achieving what many may deem impossible. Travis Hunter, he embodies belief, right? He's a rare person. He's a rare player, but he's also a reminder that the boundaries of the game of football were built to be challenged. And so the decision to select him was actually a statement for how we plan to move, who we are, and we want him to be nothing more than him. Because when he is, he elevates the space around him. From the football field to the city to the game of football itself, Travis Hunter is who we've been hunting up. Couldn't be more jacked to be sitting right here beside him and introduce you all to the man of the hour.
Oh, boy.
I mean, what is it? Are the media people clapping? What is happening right now?
I would assume that's one of those deals where they brought down the whole organization and they're sitting there clapping in the press conference.
I found this quote when Field Yates tweeted. This quote from Jaguars GM James Gladstone about Travis Hunter is pretty awesome.
I mean, it's impassioned. It was.
Hey, guys, I'm really excited about Travis Hunter. He's going to be awesome.
I mean, the end of it there where he's like, Travis Hunter is the one we've been hunting up. It's like, all right, man, what are you doing?
He definitely wrote that
I
one
mean,
down. Whatever I say, I'm going to have to have that line in there.
Look, here's my message to the Tennessee Titans. You better not lose to Jacksonville this year. Do not lose to the Jags. I don't care if you guys go 2-15, but you better beat Jacksonville twice. Because losing to this goober, and then not to mention the head coach, that's dude. Yeah, I mean, come on. You lose to these two morons. I mean, we just can't have it. I mean, it's almost a fireball. I've been all over Amy about, going off and flying off the reservation and just making random decisions all the time. If they lost to Jacksonville and she fired somebody after what these two goobers have said in the offseason, I'd probably be okay with it. I'd be like, yeah, it's fine. I get it.
I want to warn you, though. I want to condition everybody. Because, you could find some Sean McVay stuff out there that's like cringy as hell. This dude might be a genius.
He might be.
It does not mean you have to stop making fun of him. I never will. But he might be a genius. And he might, take over the league. And just imagine that. Oh, it's another one of these Super Bowls. So awesome. Go to the prom after this. Oh, Lord. That was absolutely it was very cringe and very sus. Right, young kids?
Yeah.
Right? Huh?
You know what, though? The last time, there's been two previous times in recent memory where I've looked at a press conference in the NFL and thought, oh, my God, this person is just an absolute weirdo. And that was Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia. Worked out pretty well for the Eagles. And Dan Campbell with the Lions, where it's worked out pretty well for the Lions. So maybe this is Maybe this is horrendous news for the Titans.
God, that's a great point. Very different kinds of funny and,
Yes.
and strange, but between the fun we made of Nick Sirianni, the fun we've made of Dan Campbell, unfortunately for him, he's with the Lions, so he will never have the final ultimate say on us. And also, like, the reaction to Josh Heupel being hired, like, we've had some real
doozies. We have.
Boy, we really have our finger on the ball. I actually, like, I mean, I'm listening to that. I'm like, dude, please don't ever have another press conference. Like, what are you talking about? And this texter says there's a certain breed of young men who talk their way into high-paying positions by sounding like AI. That's an interesting way to put it. But what if he's a genius?
I mean, look, he's clearly very smart. He's 34 years old, 35 years old, however old he is, and has landed a general manager job in the league. Now, granted, he's landed a general manager job with Jacksonville. So,
hey, man, there's 32.
I know. Maybe look, he looks like he's 12. Got a good hairline, so I can't say anything. That's good. But I heard that quote, and I'm with you. I saw the Field Yates quote yesterday when I first saw this. There's a quote from James Gladstone about Travis Hunter's pretty awesome.
Awesome.
Like, wow.
So cool.
Like, what do you think's going through Travis Hunter's mind? He's sitting there listening to all that?
Yeah. He's like, do I talk yet? I mean, I need to hear. See, I expected that by now we would have Kuharski in here. Like, can you imagine if we had Kuharski adding his commentary to the situation, but we don't have him. Is he okay?
I don't know. We'll find out. He's not really supposed to be here until 8 o'clock.
Yeah, but but that's usually when he usually shows up early. I see nothing from him. Anybody out there, if you see Paul Kuharski, let us know.
He retweeted my tweet last night, so I know that he knows
he was alive then.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
I got one text that says, that dude practiced that in front of the mirror for hours. Cringe AF.
The boundaries of the game itself. The boundaries of human existence.
We don't need Travis Hunter to be anything other than him. All right.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah. I'm with you. This is my message to the Titans. Do not lose to Jacksonville this year. I really don't care about anything else. I mean, I want Cam Ward to play well, and I want him to, develop. But wins and losses wise, I really don't care unless you lose to Jacksonville. You can't lose to these two idiots.
I mean, you got this kid. You've got the greatest GM in the history of the NFL, Chris Ballard in Indy.
Yeah.
And now you got Borgonzi coming in here. I mean, it's quite a crew. It's quite a crew at GM in the AFC South.
We've heard from Kuharski, who says there was an accident on the highway, so of course everybody had to stop and stare at the cop, is what he says. So there you go.
Always an excuse.
Here goes. Stephen from Hendersonville says, Robbie, don't forget Adam Gase's Jets press conference, where it looked like he was tripping on shrooms. I mean, that was a good one, but I'm just the two most recent ones are Campbell and Sirianni.
So and we had a lot of fun with those. So
well, that's not true. I guess the most recent one is Liam Cohen when he did the Duval.
Yeah, but that's just the one moment. Like I saw this Gladstone. He did an interview during the draft too, and it was similar. Like he really bothers me. Like even just, well, guys, let me tell you, it's just there's a little bit of like Eddie Haskell going on there. Yeah.
So we're actively rooting against Jacksonville.
I mean, it's just I'm sorry, but yeah, it's just if he ends up being a genius, it's going to be really annoying.
I agree. 615.
He might be
615-737-1025. Our phone number 615-737-1025. Adam in Portland says, beat Jacksonville and beat Vrabel. It's the best 3-14 record ever.
There you go. That is success in 2025.
Got the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. Paul Kuharski will be with us later in the program. Join Big Joe and 102.5 The Game from 10 a.m. to noon at Coleman Tractor of Nashville this Saturday for Kubota Orange Days. There'll be exclusive deals on compact tractors, zero turns, and more with special financing available. Sale runs from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. with demos, deals, and giveaways, and lunch from 11 to 1. That's Coleman Tractor of Nashville, located at 7221 Whites Creek Pike in Jolton, coming up this Saturday. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Go to the doctor for Proctor.
Can I help you? Yeah, Dr. Cosmo Kramer, proctology. Okay, sure, Doc. Yeah, thanks. Have a good day.
Did you know that there's a guy on Friends named Chandler Bing?
Yeah,
I'm sure he knows.
If you don't want your quarterback to see a doctor, draft Caden Proctor.
That's better than
in
mine.
2026.
That's better than mine.
Ass man. No, these don't belong to me. I'm not the ass man. I think there's been a mistake. Ass man. I'll give him ass man.
Sciatica.
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com is with us. PK, hello.
Sitting in my usual spot if I'm not here a full hour and a half early, or a half hour early, where Robby is appreciative that I'm here at all, and Joe is giving me grief for the unpaid half hour only being 15 minutes.
It's just a little weird. I'm just used, you set an expectation and then you kind of change the expectation.
Here's my tweet about this Gladstone thing. I found the Field Yates tweet.
Yeah.
I'm saying, Field, do you want a do-over on this? Dear Lord, anything NFL related you don't love? Should I hit send on this?
Yes. Oh, God, please do.
And then a year from now, you can find Field Yates in the breakfast line and make up.
Hey, Field?
Field is too big for the breakfast line.
Oh,
like he's on air.
Oh, really?
During breakfast.
Yeah, he's already had
I mean, this is preposterous that he loves this quote.
This is so awesome.
I mean, this is surely him saying everyone's going to hate this. I'm going to be contrary here for a second.
By the way,
it's pretty awesome, he said.
Yeah.
It's like a hostage tape.
Travis is like, what has happened? Can
going
I go through a recruitment
Cleveland,
process
come
again?
back and get me.
What is? I haven't seen the video. I've only heard the audio. What is his facial expression?
Yeah, it's focused on.
It's focused on Gladstone.
They did tight shot on Gladstone there.
Unfortunately, shout out to Ian. And for those who didn't hear, great Seinfeld infusion there. We talked earlier in the show asking Ian if he likes Friends because, of course, Vanderbilt seriously has a recruit named Chandler Bing.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And so, as Ian said, Friends, Seinfeld, though, thumbs up. Now, I was going to, since you're here.
Michael Holt, Vanderbilt's best recruit.
There you go.
Ravenwood.
There you go. So, since you're here, I mean, I was thinking about a rant where I just try out my new Kuharski voice.
You have a new one?
Oh, yeah, no, this is good.
It not Boston?
So I want you to tell
Have
me
you
who
removed
this
me
is.
from Boston?
Archie, I made a roast.
Edith Bunker.
Yes, you are now Edith Bunker.
Well, I think they're from Brooklyn, so we're getting geographical.
Cam,
geographical.
Cam, why did you fumble the ball instead of scoring a touchdown, Cam? So we're gonna, but
It's not very good.
That's it's kind of good.
No.
But I do actually. Since you're here, I will actually use this as a chance to give you advice. Have you been here at all for me complaining about this Assassins crap yet?
Yes.
You have been here for this? Do not let Simon do this. I'm telling you.
Oh,
pay
the
him
Assassin's
up.
game? Yeah, yeah.
So let me tell you the latest update. I know the people have been
here's the
clamoring
problem
for
with
more
it,
information.
is
about
that
this.
you're doing what your kid tells you to do instead of sitting on the couch and saying, you're on your own. Don't get assassinated. When he calls you and says,
no.
Dad, set up a perimeter around the house, and you do it, that's the problem. You doing it.
No.
Not him asking.
You don't understand, man. I'm close to selling him out. This is the last week, so it's like, fine, let it go this week. So last weekend, he went and worked out, and they had the cars were all around. People are chasing other, whatever. So he goes to this place to work out. He sees a girl on the other team get into a car in his sight and drive away, which makes him feel safe to get in his friend's car to go. And as soon as he gets in the car, like there's video of this, which is like them opening the door and just blasting him in his friend's car. And because it was the girl's sister who looked like her, so they made him think it was her. And then the actual girl came out and just
Trojan horse. Youthful fun.
This is
He's
ridiculous.
not meddling in drugs and alcohol. As far as we know, he's not getting arrested for vandalism. This is good, clean fun. It's just your insistence on being involved. Dad, get on the roof and cover me.
I don't want to be
And then
involved.
Joe
at all.
takes his gout leg and crawls up the attic steps to get out there. I know you don't want to be involved. You say you don't want to be involved, but you're helicopter parenting because you're doing what he says. And that's destroying your life.
I'm considering
Let it be his life.
I'm considering selling him out and making him move out of my house.
Considering
This is not helicopter parenting.
Considering what you're considering that while you're on the roof in a gala suit.
On the walkie-talkie. Brandon, you're all good. Walk out the door.
Hey, clear in the east.
Over.
Clear in the east.
You can go to school.
Follow the North Star.
It is an absolutely. The crow flies at midnight. It's an absolutely horrific thing. It needs to be banned in communities. And I'm telling you, do not let Simon. No, it does. It's not great. It's terrible. It's terrible. And again, where are these
I'm
kids
put off
getting
as the
this
old
money?
cranky man. You're the old cranky. Where is he getting the money? Out of your wallet. You're
think about
enabling.
that.
And this the funny thing is he's complaining, and enabling.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you don't want to enable it, stop enabling it.
So if being stolen from is enabling,
he's stealing
that's
from you.
I don't know. If he
Well,
has
call
this
the
much money,
authorities.
well,
You
that's
said last week you're
illegal,
calling the
and I'm
feds.
calling the
Prefer him in
feds
jail
to
overnight.
Shut this down.
Then have him jailed overnight. He won't get assassinated there.
It's not out of
I
consideration.
don't think.
You never know.
Depending on the criminales.
So when's this game in? Is there a target date?
So apparently the last day is Saturday. You know,
Who
'cause
arranges this whole intricate operation?
I don't know. I mean, last Saturday they, I guess like the half of the day they took off because it was prom, so they held prom at Nissan Stadium. So we can take a little time off for prom.
Nissan Stadium, what a glamorous location. Nolensville, really crushing.
I know, right? Kind of big time.
Brentwood had I'm joking. Brentwood had the Country Music Hall of Fame. That's a nice location. Nissan Stadium, they're knocking it down shortly.
Well, they have club areas. Apparently, it was very nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They put the school name on the.
We had my prom at the
big board,
the Sheridan downtown.
Okay,
I
think that's fine too.
We did General Jackson.
Did you? Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you. Did
General
you have good sea legs that night?
No.
No, I did not. Where's your prom, Joe?
God, was it at the school?
Is it that long ago?
No, it was at some club. Oh, was it that long ago? Yeah.
Yes,
they didn't even have proms when he was in high school.
We had a nice prom, but I don't remember where it was. I remember going to the beach after.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah? Like right after?
Well, I mean, we had the prom, and then we went to the beach. Yeah. Somebody had a beach house.
Please tell us no more details about this ever again.
I will say this. Petey and I got up early, and we wanted to go get some donuts, and we rode bikes over to the grocery store, and it wasn't open yet. But they had some pies stacked up out there, like in those blue crates, and we helped ourselves.
This is one of the greatest segments of radio history, I'd say.
We were hungry. I mean, I would have left some money there. I just think it would have blown away in the wind.
Yeah. Just stealing
I could
pie.
afford the pie. The store just wasn't available
Kuharski steals
to
pies.
take my money.
Great.
Yeah, I think statute
You'd
of
probably be
limitations
great
is
for
over.
assassin.
Reopen the investigation.
I think the statute of limitations is over. That guy standing out there every morning when he gets the
Wait a
pies,
minute.
he's like, I remember that day in 1987 with those damn pies. I think it was pecan.
And you wag your finger at people
Yeah.
when they get in trouble.
I know
You're a pie thief.
Hey, stay tuned. There's an update coming. Ian's pulled some sound from last week on the Titan
Breaking
strap.
news sound.
Now
Yeah.
he's taking shots at Ian. Gracious.
Anybody else before we go?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Got all things Titans to get into with PK. We'll take your questions on our text line. We'll get into the draft class. What did he like? What did he not like? All that and more coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game.
Stand back. There's a hurricane coming through.
Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com with us for the next hour, talking all things Tennessee Titans, taking your questions for PK on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. So, PK, let's just start here. The draft has come and gone. The pick that you most like, the pick that maybe you least like with the Titans and what they've accomplished over this past weekend here in the NFL draft.
I like Iomanor. Sorry.
Mute.
Yeah, that's take
Mute yourself.
I like
as I mute
Iomanor,
myself.
and I'm optimistic about him, but I do think, it's funny. I think Titans fans in general were down on the draft after 2 days. And then after the third day, everybody's like, yeah, great draft and everything. And I think when fourth and fifth rounders change your mind that much, you're kind of losing perspective on the reality of the impact. I think Winston is a good player, and I think that's the best player available at play and everything, but best player available for the 2025 Titans doesn't solve Titans issues. And he'll probably play a couple games because Amani Hooker probably gets hurt for a couple games, and they'll probably find big nickel situations for him to play in and everything. He'll be a contributor, but they have holes at starting positions, and he doesn't fill a hole at a starting position. Now, I would love for
sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, you're saying he's going to start over Woods?
I think it's possible.
I
mean,
I think
at
Woods
some
is a
point,
pretty good.
like Byard took what, 3-4 games? I mean, if he's truly this first round pick, everybody says he would have been.
Round.
Wow.
I said he would have been a high second rounder if he wouldn't hurt.
I've seen some people say he's a first rounder, including Lord Saban. But if he's that good, and the ACL tear was very early in the season, why not?
Well, here's why not. He doesn't rush the passer, and he doesn't catch passes. And they manipulated their way into having 3 picks in the top 100, and then they drafted a guy who plays a position where they have 2 starters. So I'm not that excited about it. Maybe next year, but they're not in a position to draft Amani Hooker's replacement right now. They're taking the long range, because what'll happen is he won't play that much. They won't be that good, and Amy will fire Brian Callahan.
Well, I can definitely see that.
And that doesn't play into the long range thing, right? We're going to be patient, and we're going to be disciplined, and and Amy's on board. Well, when they have 4 wins in November, is Amy on board? When Price is whispering in her ear, this team, my friends are giving me a hard time. There's nobody they could draft in fantasy, yada, yada. I'm not buying that Amy's so on board that when they stink later that she remains on board.
I need to see that to believe.
She's fired 3 people 3 years in a row. So I would be a little more conscious of getting better fast.
By the way, let's get this right. No, we looked up pronunciation guides. Iomanor, right?
That's what pronunciation
like mind your
says.
Manners. Iomanor.
We need to get to the bottom of this.
I mean, that's his own school's pronunciation guide. Now, every once in a while, those can be wrong, but for the most part, they're pretty reliable.
Well, at Stanford, they should be right.
They should be.
Iomanor.
Iomanor.
Intriguing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't love DK where they got him, but that they got the 2, you could just flip them in my eyes, and then I'd be perfectly fine with
That's
it.
I thought Iomanor was a very viable target going into the 4th.
Yeah.
And then for them to get him later. I mean, I think that's kind of everybody's, I don't know about favorite, but that's the value pick of the draft.
Yeah,
right?
I'm surprised he was there, which I thought he could go a little sooner than that. And he's a receiver. I think we naturally play that up probably a little bit more than we should. But the production in college was really good. So we'll see how that translates to the NFL. Femi Oladejo is a guy that basically just started playing edge rusher. Now, the measurables you like, he was a transfer from Cal to UCLA and moved positions and swapped over to edge rusher. What did you make of that pick and taking a guy that has not played a lot of edge rusher in college to this point?
I mean, he kind of represents a lot of things in this draft for them in terms of upside, and that's fine. Nick Suss used this comparison, which I thought was very good. If he's a 6 coming in and he's going to be an 8, well, you've got him for 4 years. So you get a year of 6 and 3 years of 8. I think all of us would rather 4 years of 8. So, and, a lot of confidence in this staff to develop. Well, last year's roster was really bad, but there were some guys to be developed. And I don't think we have a huge examples of them developing guys. And so again, these guys get brought in, and if they're not developed, you're changing the coaching staff. And if you're changing the coaching staff, Cam Ward gets set back right away. Right. So I don't understand the emphasis on guys who, Jackson Slater makes sense as a developmental late, right. Fifth round, 167, develop him behind Zeitler and hope that he's a starter next year. But otherwise, the developmental upside talk about a lot of these guys, if there are alternatives there who are a little further advanced, who have played more than 10 games at edge, who, have played more than a season at running back, though Mullings looks convincing.
I like him.
But
I like the pick.
I just feel like they could have gotten more guys who are more down the road.
I agree, but also, are you making? I mean, ultimately, and I hear like the 6 and 3/8, but if you're going to end up with the better player and it just takes a little bit more time, isn't that more important than worrying about like making sure that the owner doesn't fire the coach this year? Because it seems like you're tying these things together. Like
depends on your perspective.
Well, I want what's best.
But you just want the best players, right?
Yeah, I want the best players, but I want what's best for Cam Ward. And it's really bad for Cam Ward if they fire his coach after 1 year. I mean, it constantly sets
Caleb
guys
Williams.
back.
People tell me Caleb Williams is going to be just swimming in wins this year.
They've surrounded him with good weapons and everything, and maybe that's the case. History has shown us it's not ideal for a guy to have multiple coordinators early in multiple systems, multiple head coaches early in his career.
What was the stat?
I have a concern about that.
Do you remember the stat Lehman said yesterday? It was a great stat, and I forget it, but it was a really eye-opening stat about number 1 QBs and coaches. Like essentially, like it's rare that they don't have a firing.
Yeah,
which is pretty wild. But I guess that sort of tells you something about the league.
It was I can go back and find it, but essentially it's like 2 guys have made it past like the next 2 years without being fired after having the number 1 overall pick. And one of them was
15.
Zach Taylor.
Yeah, right.
So Brian Callahan has been a part of the staff where that's happened, but can he?
He's trying to buck history.
He's trying to buck history.
And most of those quarterbacks have turned out to not be very good.
Well, there's that too.
As we've pointed out time and time again.
Right. So we're going to get into the Cam Ward part of this with PK coming up next. Obviously, a lot of discussion about him over the weekend. He met with the media. We'll get into the Warren Moon thing with him as well. Take your thoughts for PK, 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3 The Game. Join 102.5 The Game live on location as DVD broadcast from Ascent Building's hiring event today from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Portland at 214 Fountainhead Road. The hiring fair runs from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and there will be food trucks during the lunch hour. For more details, visit thegamenashville.com/events. Paul Kuharski with us here on the program for the rest of the hour, talking all things Tennessee Titans.
This goofball just said, "Oh, Metallica's no good. There's no toe tapping that goes with Metallica." You need some George Gershwin to go to a concert?
I like a tune that like you can sing along, not scream along. Forgive me.
Okay, great.
I don't find it musical in the least.
Okay, Edith. Thanks.
Metallica,
By the way, the Pat Benatar is with Bryan Adams.
Metallica is significantly better than the Beatles.
I've seen Bryan Adams.
All right. See, now so both you okay, fine.
Back in the day.
Okay, we'll just
Madison Square Garden. You might have heard of it.
Bryan Adams at MSG. Okay.
That sounds awesome.
You sitting there with your lighter. I'm in heaven.
The more we can get
What a
Rexrode singing
sign.
on the show, the better off we all are.
Sing it.
And I will be at Metallica. Metallica's great. What are you talking about? Yeah, they're just screaming. All they do is scream,
It's
and
true.
they play and they smash their guitars.
They don't
Shut
smash
up.
the guitars. It's terrible.
So, PK, you got to talk to Cam Ward a lot over the weekend. There was a lot of discussion around here, obviously, on that front. We'll get to the Warren Moon part of this here in just a few minutes. But your impressions of Cam Ward after dealing with him as Titans quarterback for the first time?
Handled himself great. I mean, you might not like his upside or have a great forecast for him, but through this process and particularly through draft night and the day after, I mean, he handled himself exactly like you'd like a, hopeful franchise quarterback to carry himself. And that's really encouraging at this stage. It's all you have to go on. Now, I mean, I'd like to look back at all these number one picks, and see how it compared there, because it's not the most meaningful thing. But in terms of temperament and, what he said and did, I don't think it's that big a deal to be calling guys as they're drafted. The fans eat that up. And it makes a nice impression. He's calling the first guy, I think Helm, while he's still on the phone with the Titans.
Yep.
So does that look great? Yeah.
Hold on, Brinker. I know you're the fourth person I have to talk to, but I got Cam on the line.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to tell me, Chad Brinker? Or I just wanted to let you know I'm here. All right, buddy.
Yeah, those phone calls are.
Sorry, I don't want to, offend you.
I think offend me. I think those phone calls are overhyped, but I think Cam should leave time for the guy to have his moment with the front office before he has time with his the guy that just got drafted the day before.
Hey, Cam, Chad's on the line with him. Can you wait? It's a really important conversation.
He's talking to his ninth member of the Titans front office.
Now we're going to give you the Adams family 5 in a row here. Each one will congratulate.
This is Amy's poodle groomer.
I just really want to say congratulations. I couldn't be more thrilled that you're a Titan. I'll give you back to Amy now.
Tighten up, baby.
I don't know why poodle groomer
That's
made me laugh
good.
so much.
That's good. No, a horse
Thank
whisperer
you.
would have been better.
Yeah.
She's more of a horse person than a poodle person, I think.
Okay.
I don't know about her dog stats.
Well, but no, in seriousness, she did start also like a fox hunting society in like San Antonio. I'm not making that up.
What?
Yes.
It fits.
Look
with
it
the
up on
horse
the internet.
lifestyle.
Huh?
It fits with the horse lifestyle.
Right.
What's wrong? I mean,
Horse and Hound
this
magazine.
is what rich
cover
people do.
story. I know. A fox hunting society is kind of cool, right?
She goes fox hunting, and you stand guard for assassin.
Exactly. So, okay, in all seriousness, you mentioned that the support system around the number one quarterbacks. Okay, what's a reasonable place to go back to? Let's say 20 years. Alex Smith, not very good. Jamarcus Russell, pretty bad. That was all dysfunctional.
Completely awful.
Matthew Stafford, the Lions, absolute bleep show. Sam Bradford in 2010. Cam Newton, I guess with the Panthers back then, they were not an embarrassment. Andrew Luck's good. Jameis Winston, I don't know. It was more on him. Jared Goff with the Rams, pretty good. Baker with the Browns. Actually, they weren't a complete disaster. Kyler, not great. Burrow. I mean, the thing is, I don't think that Burrow did join a great support system.
No, he raised it, and they were smart enough to build it. But what he came into wasn't great.
And then Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, and now Cam. And that's, to me, there's some commonalities there. Jags, Panthers, Bears, and Titans. That's obviously often the teams that are drafting number one.
Yeah, it's not so much what you come into, it's what they offer you as you arrive. So that's what I'm saying. Stability oftentimes is would be good. I mean, if you could pick a scenario out of there, the one that jumps to mind for me there is Burrows. And the one that jumps to mind now, I'm being biased about the present, is Lawrence. I mean, how many guys has Lawrence been through? Could Lawrence still be good? I'm on the side of like Lawrence could still be good. I'm not confident that these guys are going to make him good, but if he ever had somebody good that was in place for a significant amount of time and stayed healthy, I think Trevor Lawrence, out of all of those guys, was one of the ones that had the best chance. Like, how badly did you screw up your first round pick? Not the pick, but the guy. Jacksonville screwed him up as much as any of those teams have screwed up a guy. Jamarcus Russell just stunk. It was a bad pick. It was a force.
Yeah. I also think, though, with Trevor Lawrence, I just think his ceiling is lower than everybody thought.
Yeah, well, he's not as good as people thought.
Yeah.
But he's better, I think,
than what he
could be a better quarterback if they hadn't given him 5 different coaches and 5 different coordinators and screwed him up with your guy, Urban Meyer, a genius in college, going to come to NFL and show everybody how it's done, which is,
You think he's got an athletic subscription yet? Or
I don't know. I'll have to check. But now he's got Doogie Howser.
Yeah.
Is picking players for him. So
Duval.
Just a great combo.
Ian, I swear say Duval. Good. I think you'll sound a little bit like him.
You want me to say it like that?
No, I want you to say it like you say it.
Duval.
No, but stretch it out.
I'll stretch it out. Duval.
See, it sounds a little bit the same.
Don't do things on demand that he asks. Dude, just ignore his ass.
That's the job.
I'm here to entertain.
That's right. So what do you make of
You're allowed to disagree, by the way, as opposed to your other job.
Okay, great.
report that Schefter threw out there that the Giants offered a 2026 first-round pick among multiple other picks to trade for the Titans, and the Titans apparently had no interest in that whatsoever.
I believe that deal began with swap of firsts, next year's first, this year's second, next year's second. I mean, is that a windfall? I don't know.
It's pretty good. Say it again.
Swap a first, so they would have gone from first to third.
Yep.
Next year's first, this year's second, next year's second.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'm taking that. Again,
But you don't like the quarterbacks.
Who would you take at 3 if that were the case?
Would you have gone Carter?
You'd probably be stuck with Abdul Carter, which isn't a bad thing to be stuck with, right?
If he's healthy.
Stuck with. I mean, if
Yeah,
you're using
I'd
the word
take him.
stuck with, that I have concerns about Abdul Carter off the field and it's the foot. But I mean, they're so. By the way, let's talk about this culture setting thing. 4th and 5th round picks are nice, like to fill in the cracks. They're not changing the culture of your team, are they? The culture of your team is changing from leaders and production. If a guy is playing special teams, I don't think he's changing the culture of your team. Like he's helping, but that comes later. The culture change starts on the first line of the depth chart.
Yeah.
They're going
Not
to change.
many of these guys are on the first line of the depth chart. I think it's been way overrated.
Let me tell you what's
Culture is
going
the
to
most overrated word in the.
Well, it
history of
is. Let me tell you what's going to determine whether or not their culture gets changed around here. Is Cam Ward good?
Yeah.
If Cam Ward's good, your culture's going to change.
Right.
And
Oh,
do they-
we're winning. We all like each other now. Cool.
Yeah, and
What
do
a
they-
culture.
Do they win some more games?
I will say, you talk about mid-rounds. I mean, I do think of, the Lions, probably their most culture-setting guy is Amon-Ra St. Brown. You know?
Yeah.
What are you
he's a
laughing
mid-round
about?
pick.
I cannot even talk about it right now.
Well, because it does Fitzpatrick. But right?
Yep.
I'm not saying
Robbie's
there
out of
can't be
commission.
one that does that. But when you've got 3/4 and a fifth, and you're acting like they're going to collectively be huge culture changers for you. I think it's overestimating the power of that group. Just like everybody had the Titans at a C or a D after Friday night, and after Saturday, they're an A.
All right, we got to go to break. We'll come back. We'll continue the conversation with PK coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all.
We'll see if Robby has composed himself. On Ross St. Brown really gets to him.
Something on TV that I was not prepared for. So there you go.
We're all fine now.
We are all good now.
We'll see.
I need a huge ass. Everybody, I'm looking for a huge ass.
parts since doing some of his finest work.
We did run into one of those situations. Let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Ed in New Jersey. Ed, good morning.
Edward.
Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, gentlemen. So, listen, I've watched Moon throughout his whole career, and he was very gracious of what he did, and very deserving, leads the franchise in yards and touchdowns, and I get all of that. But the idea that we're going to use, some people are using it in the same context of Abdul Carter asking LT for his number. I mean, Warren Moon is not immortal. He's a deserving Hall of Famer, but he's 3-7 in the playoffs with the Oilers. And I don't mean to bash him, but there's different levels of players. And to compare him to that is just ludicrous. And look, I'd rather have McNair in the fourth quarter of big games than Moon. And I watched Moon his whole career. So people, I think, try to immortalize Moon sometimes. And I just think it's not accurate. Really, really great player, but just never did it for me on loaded teams especially the early 90s. You know, we would die for the rosters that they had, and they always came up short. So maybe my bar's too high, but gracious what he did, but I'm not really upset that, you know, they're unretiring Moon's number.
People aren't trying to immortalize him. He's been immortalized. He's got a bronze bust.
Yeah.
Those bronze busts, like they survived nuclear explosions.
I wish this would have been my rant. I'm sorry, but first of all, LT, I already, loved LT.
You can't touch that.
Good for you. Shut up. No, you can't wear my number. I hate the whole idea, all of it. So, I mean, I would absolutely agree that like Warren Moon's on the same level as Lawrence Taylor, but he does have a retired number. Like, unless you're Colorado football, you retire numbers like for a good reason, typically, I would think. Why are you retiring them if the next flavor of the month gets to wear it? What?
Don't even
hate
ask.
This idea.
Don't even ask. The organization shouldn't have allowed him to ask. I don't think it did. I don't think he asked the organization.
So where did this start?
I think he went straight to Moon.
You think Cam went to Moon?
Yeah, I think he got Moon's number and he went straight to Moon and asked him. And again, it's not a hill I'm going to die on, but I'm with you. If it's retired, it's retired. It's off limits. Go to the next number.
And honestly,
and write your own legacy. Now, if he has a Hall of Fame career, you retire it. And if he's a dud, you've embarrassed the number.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't know what someone's going to turn out to be. If I was that person, I wouldn't want that on me. But these kids,
in a really
apparently
bad
these
situation.
Kids don't care about that. All these kids on their TikTok and they just want to wear everybody's number.
And you put the guy in a really awkward situation. Like if
he
said no, then he comes off as a bad guy, and he didn't do anything.
Yeah,
except answer his phone.
But it is different in this context with this organization where, and we talked about this the other day, like this is the Tennessee Titans and Warren Moon has not been the quarterback of the Tennessee Titans. Now I get it. It's the same franchise and I don't really love it either. Like to me, if you're retiring a number, then retire the number and it's off limits. I do think it's different than some of these other, like first off, the LT thing is it's stupid by itself. You're talking about one of the greatest players in the history of the game.
Maybe
and
the
Warren
best
Moon,
defensive player in the history.
Right. And Warren Moon is a really, really good quarterback. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Nobody's going to talk about Warren Moon being one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the game when it comes to like that very, very short elite list. Okay. So I get that. Like there's some things that are different about it. I'm largely with you guys. Like if the number's retired, it's retired. It is a little bit different here because they are the Titans and it's a new spot and all that.
He did say, if I was Roger Staubach, I would have said no, pretty much.
Yeah.
But I just think it's becoming too frequent. And
this needs.
Well, I don't want to get into like this, like an epidemic here of like people coming out of the draft and start asking for retired numbers all over the place. Like it happened with Malik Neighbors in New York. And they, then Abdul Carter tries to grab LT. I don't need somebody coming out every year trying to get a retired.
And Abdul Carter's second favorite number is 11, which is also retired for Phil Sims.
Who was Malik?
Is it going to Phil Sims?
Whose number was
Malik
Neighbors?
Neighbors is one. It was retired a long time ago for an old timer, the kind of guy that you just completely step on. You
from the 30s.
You go to his family and ask.
Type of guy that you were able to just go get his autograph as a kid, no problem.
No, my grandfather would have.
Ray Flaherty.
If he gave a damn about football.
Ray Flaherty.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was retired.
How
retired.
dare you try to take Ray?
He retired from
Ray
the Giants
Flaherty,
in 1935.
I think he was the first football number ever retired.
I believe that is correct.
Well, then
the kids don't care about Ray Flaherty. Give it to him.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, honestly, I don't know anything about Ray Flaherty, but the fact that that's the case, you don't give it to elite neighbors.
What you brought up is the really interesting part of this too, because like, what happens if Cam Ward's not good? Like, you've unretired number one from Warren Moon, and you've given it to somebody who ends up not being very good.
Keep giving it to everybody until they find a good quarterback. Please wear one. You can make it work.
Like, can you imagine if Marcus walked in here and was like, "Hey, I want to wear 9. Like, 9's really my thing," and he was just like, "Hey, sure, wear 9. Why not?" And then you just sucked.
At least people wouldn't have had an issue with the conflict of the Levis Mariota jerseys.
True. Well, that is true. I did tell Cam Ward to stay away from 8 and 10, so I'm glad he did that.
Yeah, 7, wide open. Go ride a legacy with 7.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be. I think from the reaction we've gotten, people are pretty split on that. I tend to fall in line of it's retired for a reason, so just leave it retired.
Well, the thing to me is the people who are like, give it to him are just way too nonchalant about it. At least, preface it with something nice about Moon. Don't say, it doesn't matter. Yeah, just give it to Cam.
Yeah. Yeah. The Oilers Titans thing, and that's how Warren described it. It makes it, I get that, but I still just think across the board, going to be an old man on that. Just leave the retired numbers retired. People keep asking about his celebration. Do we know? What's the Cam Ward celebration? Do you know it? I can, I see it, but I don't know that I. Is it good?
What are they asking about?
They're asking if you can do it.
Does it include some sort of physical strain?
Like, does he flip? I don't know. What I don't know what it is. I guess I have to look it up now. I didn't realize he does it every time.
He does a lot. I think it's just like a hand motion.
Look, I could do a hand motion. Yeah. I have experience with hand motions, but I played basketball and curveball.
Read
with my son
between the lines, Archie.
And that left me a little sore. But it included more than hand motions.
BK, what do you make of the addition of Tyler Lockett?
I like it a lot. That would have been the guy post-draft, if they didn't do enough at receiver, that would have been first on my list. That they come out with Lockett and 2 receivers. I would have liked a higher receiver. They would have liked Jalen Noel. I mean, that's a guy they were trying to come back up and get. That's pretty widely acknowledged. That's another reason that, as good as Winston may be, and as much as they may have liked Winston, they wanted to trade up and not draft Winston. They wanted to trade up and draft a favored receiver there. So look, nothing goes according to plan A for any team.
Got to adjust.
Very rarely. You have to go with what unfolds. That doesn't mean they don't like Winston. It doesn't mean they don't like DK. But if things had gone exactly according to their plan, neither of those guys would be in this draft class, right? So, but I think Lockett, is a significant step better than Boyd, and he was congratulating every guy that got drafted, and he was, I don't think he'd been in the Titans building yet necessarily. The contract's official now, and I think he'll be productive and a really good guy in that room that needs a headlining leader.
Speaking of culture, do you agree with Brinker that at some point, we'll just look at football players and that is a Titan. That right there is a Titan.
Joe's really down on Brinker.
I mean,
I don't understand some of the stuff he said. What he's getting pulled away. What are these meetings he's getting pulled away for, PK?
Budget meetings.
So hey, Chad, the Uncrustables spending is out of control.
Look,
and True Green, we need to figure out the lawn. Like, what's more important than picking players?
I don't disagree with you, but it is a business that has budgets that get set, I think, for most industries on a certain timetable that involves April, and he oversees a bunch of departments that have budgets. And so they need him to be part of that for an hour here and there. They used to need John Robinson to be part of it here and there. And at that point, they would stop the draft meetings and have him go into a budget meeting. So do you prefer they stop the draft meetings and have John Robinson go and do the budget meetings? Or do you prefer they continue the draft meetings and Chad Brinker catch up when he misses things for an hour?
So you're acting like those are the only 2 options? That's the only 2 possibilities? I mean, how stupid is this? What are we talking about?
What do you want to happen? No budget meetings?
Hey, we got a call from the Giants. They're offering all these. Hold on now. Hold on. We got to really cut down on our spend. What?
Well, I mean,
I think you can arrange this.
You think if they got a call from the Giants, he wouldn't be available for that?
I don't know.
They don't have him chained up somewhere for a budget meeting. He's just in a budget meeting. If he gets an urgent call, they get him. It's not that complicated. I mean,
you're invoking Pulp Fiction. What?
I just think you're overdoing it. I don't think it's a federal issue that he's out of the room.
I think it's kind of weird, Robbie.
I think it's a bigger issue that Rand
this.
Carthon was out of the room at times during a draft. That's a big deal.
Also, he napped. Robbie, you're ruling.
Tetris. Played the Tetris on the phone. I think I'm in favor of PK.
Yeah, you don't think this is a big deal?
I don't think it's a huge deal.
I mean, you sound like one of those guys that one of those fans that's like, oh my God, this guy raps in his free time. How is he not in his playbook?
You better be studying that film.
24 hours a day. This guy's got to be football. He threw interceptions this weekend. How is he not in his backyard Monday with receivers throwing?
I saw a TikTok yesterday. I guess all these college football coaches went to some golf tournament. And you got Shane Beamer's goofy self out there swinging a golf club.
Sure.
Kirby Smart. And one of the comments from Georgia fan, glad Kirby's got time to golf. Jimmy out there studying some film.
That's right. Get after him.
Kirby's job is not a 24/7 job like monitoring the portal.
Much
you know how we pull out our phones?
Expected.
You know how we pull out our phones like way too much just to look? Yeah. Imagine college football coaches. I don't know how the portal works, but I'm picturing college football coach pulls his phone out of his pocket every 2 minutes to see if something's happened concerning the portal.
I would imagine so.
That to me is an absolutely hellish life.
615-737-1025, our phone number.
Hey, Ian, there's one. Make sure you keep quote, I have experience with a hand motion from PK from that segment. That's got to be coming around. Thank you.
It's got to be useful.
Like I was making a joke about myself. I'm not too proud to joke about myself. Joe would get all defensive and red-faced and gouty about that.
Gout.
Joe has no experience with that. Joe,
don't deflect.
Joe's got concubines all over the world. Because we know Katie's busy.
Wow.
Busy and disinterested.
I mean, I'm talking to someone who the fact that a woman has ever voluntarily touched you in an intimate way is actually like a miracle of mankind on its own.
Now that's
one time.
That's ridiculous to take it that far.
Oh, I take it that far. I'm just sitting here minding my own business.
Which one of us is screaming and which one of us is calm?
You're
the one that's all excited.
I did get red face there.
I mentioned hand motion, and you're the one that's all excited about it. See how that works? Put that on tape.
Totally lost control. We'll get one more segment with PK coming up next. By the way, I got some tickets to give away to see Shinedown, one of PK's favorite bands, at Bridgestone Arena coming up on Saturday, May the 10th. Be caller 5, 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. PK with us here on the program. PK, we're starting to see it. How much turnover do you think we could see when it comes to the scouting department with the Tennessee Titans?
I imagine this is about it. And now they'll maybe shuffle some titles and the like. And this is not extreme, I wouldn't say, right? I mean, Michael Johnson, or Michael, I don't know how he pronounces his name, pro scouting coordinator. That's not a super high level. Corey Cooper is a scouting assistant who's out. Those are not high level jobs. Brian Gardner, longtime director of pro scouting. That's a big move. He's been here 12 years. AJ Highsmith was a 1-year guy as director of scouting. And so those are the two big moves. My objection still is with they're not changing the college scouts, it doesn't appear. And a lot of those guys have been around a long time. They found themselves another big time, high ranking executive. He's held a position since 2016, Brown's director of player personnel, and Dan Sagany, who's coming in. So, I mean, Amy's certainly spending money on these guys, and this is the third big addition to this front office after Borgonzi. So you can't argue with their willingness to add big prominent people, and they'll tell you can't have enough of them. Though I wonder.
Is that true? Yeah. That was one of my questions. Is it more valuable to have like a bunch of sort of former GM types all in a room, or have more money invested in the actual scouting? And then second,
I think absolutely fair question.
How do you not know to pronounce the name? Didn't you just get after Stille for not knowing who the scouts were in this franchise?
I know who he is. A, he's very low ranking.
What do you
B,
call him?
I haven't memorized how to say his name.
What's up, man?
Than not knowing who he is.
Hey, good to see you, man. How you doing?
I do that all the time.
Yeah, me too.
These low-ranking background people are not highly visible.
Is this good that they have all these McKenzie? And I mean, I know Brinker, McKenzie, Reggie's the greatest.
I don't know. We're not going to know until, a lot of these stories aren't told until way down the road. After Cam Ward's career is done, good or bad, we'll hear, hey, Reggie McKenzie was really, or Reggie McKenzie is cast to me as a line guy. Oh, damn. I really blew it on Johnson there, since she's a she. So really my bad on that one. When you draft Slater, Reggie McKenzie's cast as a line guy, right? So when the Slater story is written, say, did Reggie McKenzie have a big bearing on that? Maybe, maybe not.
Bill Callahan?
Yeah. How much is Bill Callahan involved? How much is that? So there's a win for Stillman there, and that I cast a female.
Oh, he's going to use that
he would
over and over again.
He'll have a field day with
You got
that.
him on Twitter the other day, though.
But they're not high ranking. They're not high ranking. She's not a high ranking person who's an East Coast or West Coast scout. So
hey, what's up, man?
Yeah.
What? Do you have a Shador to take? I mean, you haven't gotten any Shador takes.
I was going to ask that.
I mean, the Shador thing is largely about how he plays, and now we're watching every scouting analyst cover their ass. Pelissero, maybe I'll have to get recovered by his in the breakfast line, but he says, after round one, well, everybody, knew this isn't anything different. We knew he wasn't going in round one. We knew he was more like a round 2 talent. Now, I haven't heard him since he's a round 5 talent. But the biggest thing here is everybody covering their ass about being wrong. That's the main story here. I gotta dig out of this and find a story that explains why he's a 5th rounder.
You really think that's true? Don't you think he just sabotaged himself dramatically?
Well, however it becomes that you're a 5th rounder, you're a 5th rounder.
Right, but don't we have a pretty good feeling for what that is at this point?
Yeah,
it's not that scouts are wrong about his talent as a player. It's that he screwed himself.
I don't think it matters if you're telling me where he's getting drafted. You don't parenthetically say this is where he's valued as a talent. You're telling me where he's getting drafted. If you repeatedly tell me he's getting drafted in the first round and he gets drafted in the 5th round, raise your hand and say you were wrong.
Mel Kiper?
This is a problem with all of these people. Mel Kiper's a different brand because all that show is the NFL against Mel Kiper's draft board. That's the game that they play, and they seem to like it. But all these other people who reported wrong, and they just can't ever say that. That's what drives me crazy about the whole thing. We were all wrong collectively on Shedeur Sanders. I didn't have one GM tell me they saw him sliding to the 5th round. Are those words is it not possible for them to say that out of your mouth?
You were wrong about Shedeur, and I made a roast. BK, thank you for being with us today.
Pleasure to be here. Don't block the box. Be sure to lock your locks. Stillman, have fun. You're still a complete tool.
Jason Big Joe coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.